The work I just performed for you all is an excerpt from Frédéric Chopin's Barcarolle, one of the last works he ever published before his death in 1849. Suffering under tuberculosis for most of his adult life, he could feel that life seeping away from him with every measure that he wrote. And yet I can imagine that, considering its length, many of you may have found it difficult to maintain your interest throughout, seeing as this genre of music, that is to say, classical music, has fallen out of fashion. To me, this decline is not necessarily anyone's fault, rather it has come from a lack of understanding. For most people, interest in music comes with comprehension. When you listen to a song by the Beatles, for example, they tell you what the music is for, the story that they wish to tell you. You feel as though you live through something with these artists as they retell this story to you, and the story makes you feel a certain way as you listen. The music is not necessarily the focal point, but the background. And because you can hear and understand the words that are being said, therein lies a compulsion to draw from them. So by that description, most classical music would seem incomplete without such words or stories. Yes, there exists classical music with words, such as opera, but most of us don't have hours and hours to spend listening to arias and overtures, and besides, we don't speak Italian. Even if there is an incredibly entertaining or profound story contained within the libretto or the words that are spoken throughout the opera, there lies no convenient way for us to comprehend them. It is a tragedy, considering the marvelous skill and dedication of both these composers and their singers, and the depths of humanity that they are allowed to peruse and pursue through the sacred art of opera. Yet the barrier of language persists past their genius for many of us. And yet, it is often said that music is a universal language. I'm here today to tell you that that has never been truer than it is now. I'm here today to tell you that there is a prose that exists within all of the music of this kind, and really needs to be deciphered by its audience to reveal the stories that give these works the vitality to last centuries. It is my sincere belief that there are some truths of this world that cannot be said, only heard. And I hope to prove that to you all today through my analysis of 4 sections throughout this Barcarolle that I believe portray a hint as to such a narrative. But before I do that, I would like to analyze the one word that Chopin gives us as to the intention of his piece: barcarolle. A barcarolle is a type of Italian boat song originating in Venice, sung by the gondolier, who is the driver of the boat, in this case, a gondola. He is also called the barcarola in Italian, hence the name barcarolle. Only in this case, Chopin has changed the singer. Instead of a single gondolier, there are 2 voices that sing in harmony with each other throughout the entirety of the piece. It is generally accepted that Chopin intended these to be 2 lovers that sing together in the gondola, and it's especially apparent in this first theme. So you have your 2 voices. Far more unique in this passage is Chopin's left hand. Here, he imitates the movement of a gondola through water in these canals of Venice. Now, it is admittedly a harder thing to grasp, but the similarity in their movement is undeniable. He even gives you it by itself so you can kind of get used to the rhythm of it. Now, this may seem like an interesting concept, but you may be asking yourself, of what consequence is this in his actual ability, Chopin's actual ability, to actually take us farther into his musical world than another artist that uses words? Well, of great consequence, in fact. Because Chopin's idea is being expressed in a musical motif instead of a literary one, he can modulate the gondola's movements, accelerate them, notate every rise and fall of the water in these canals of Venice that complement and complete the changes in the voices of the singers. Because Chopin is relying on a musical motif to carry his intention, he is not limited by the words of his native language, nor our own, but by his own musical imagination. And so as the barcarolle is being sung, the left hand slowly begins to change. and so forth. Chopin then uses a different rhythmic idea to express how the movement of the water is changing as the piece progresses. If you remember, there was this exchange that I played for you in this first passage of the piece. To transition to the next section, Chopin is using the same harmonic idea, only transposed to a different key, and follows it with this aimless, melancholic melody. Here, I imagine that somehow the gondola has separated, taking the two lovers apart from one another and dimming our main protagonist's view as the current takes him into a new kind of water. For me, this character has always resembled Chopin, though whether it's him or not, I don't think I'm going to be hearing from him anytime soon. So I will just leave it to your imagination. Here's where the movement of the water begins to change. Instead of a current taking the gondola forward through the water, it's almost as if the waves are reciprocating on themselves, slowly maybe inching the gondola forward, yet never really taking it anywhere. And as he is lost in this strange sea, surrounded by this mist that his eyes cannot discern through, he's forlornly attempting to find something to navigate by, yet ultimately isn't finding anything. There are these glimmers of light which flutter on the water before him, though he cannot pinpoint their source. All of these colors that he does see, these mists and these lights, begin to fade and change to darker and darker colors as Chopin modulates keys further and further down the register of the keyboard. Despair, characterized by these startling dissonances that Chopin begins to introduce into the harmonic structure, is encroaching upon Chopin as he is losing all sense of color and direction and has nowhere to go. Until this moment. Here, he spots the source of those glimmers, and the mists begin to part as his gondola speeds forward, the left-hand figure widening as the waves get larger. His hopes returning to him in the same melodies as before, yet now they serve to elucidate his elation and his fervent pursuit from the salvation of this odd sea. Those faint glimmers from before now become these virtuosically brilliant, harmonious flashes of light, which, while making our lives very difficult, are also very effective. So I can't get that mad at him for making my life harder. course, I'm really expressing what I see in this music, and perhaps not what Chopin wanted you, the listener, to experience. But this imagery is how I make sense of these musical motifs that Chopin is utilizing in very specific ways in order to create these sounds and colors that in some way mean something. And the way that these motifs develop is a critical part of not only what the story is, but how it is being told. It is my job as a concert pianist, or a studying one anyway, to discern the meaning behind these choices and convey them as best as I can to you, the listener. Now, I must cut my analysis tragically short due to the constraints of time upon this stage, so I will do my best to sum what I believe Chopin means in the rest of the piece and how it pertains to us. Chopin left his home country of Poland in 1830, embarking on a tour across Europe to establish himself as a concert pianist, like me. However, shortly after he left, about 3 weeks, the November uprising began in Poland against the Russian Tsar. Poland lost the revolution, and Chopin was never able to return to his homeland. Initially, Chopin wanted to live in Italy, where the barcarolle is from, though he ended up living in France, where his father was from, for the rest of his life. Although, according to one of his contemporaries, Franz Liszt, Chopin would always say that he was simply passing through Paris, despite living there for almost 20 years, nearly half of his life. Considering how this barcarolle is of an Italian origin, how it exists as the only work of its kind in Chopin's composing career, and how close he was to the gates of heaven, I believe that this piece symbolizes for Chopin what he believes his life may have been like, the life he did not get to live, had he chosen to follow his dream to live in Italy instead of France. The amount of vigor and joy that is produced by the ending of this piece is astonishing, and I have found no equal in my 12 years of playing. And while unfortunately I will not get the chance to play it for you, I believe in those last phrases of his story, Chopin is giving us his blessing and part of his very life force in order to gift us listeners the energy, integrity, and strength necessary to accomplish the great works, the great dreams in our own lives, which require those traits in such abundance, which is why they are explained in such detail throughout the musical narrative of the barcarolle. Because this message exists in a musical form and not a literary one, the weight and vitality of this work defies popularity and draws those of us who know what to listen for ever closer to it, drawing upon the visions and wisdom of these great geniuses that has been passed down not by words, but by music. Obviously, Chopin was an extraordinary composer, and this is a very special work. But I hope that seeing the process and the imagination that is contained within these marvelously profound works of art helps you to see the profundities in all of the music of this time. That the bliss and joy that we so ardently look for is found in incalculable abundance from the music of our own past and the ideas that develop a musical narrative. So I encourage you to, the next time you're looking for something to pass the time or to fill the silence, to listen to classical music. It does not have to be something intimidating or long. There's no defined place to start or end, what composer to listen to or not to listen to, whether it has to be in Italian or German or French or Polish or Spanish or English, or have any language in it at all, for that matter. Because I have no doubt that no matter what it is that you listen to, a musical narrative is written there not in the language of a nation, but of a soul, that speaks to you and corroborates your own experiences with that of its poet. In those lines, you will not only experience the commonalities of the past with the present, but the wisdom and knowledge that can bring to your own life, if only you take the step not just to hear, but to listen. Thank you.